You are a creator. You create your career, your business. You create a family. You create your future. On the Results Driven Life by Design broadcast, get ready to hear from people from all walks of life and how they overcame the odds to create a life led by purpose and vision. Here's your host, Kia Arian.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's broadcast. I always begin by reminding you that your skills, your talents, and your experiences have been given to you for a reason. No one else has that unique combination, and no one else has your voice. You have a message that the world needs to hear. And so, as you listen to today's show, I invite you into a greater vision for your life that resonates beyond what you do, but why you do it. Now, on today's show, I have something a little different, maybe a lot different. My guest is Tanyah Jackson, and Tanya is an artist and a perfumer. She creates custom fragrances and perfumed oils, and she is also an artist who creates one-of-a-kind masterpieces that capture light in a truly extraordinary way. Tanya is also a savvy businesswoman. Now, I invited her on my show to share with listeners not just her beautiful, magical products that transport you into heavenly realms, but also to talk about how she took two separate businesses, her art studio and her perfumery. And that's when I met her. And quite honestly, those two businesses were floundering a little bit when I met her, and how she was able to take them and combine them to create a unified brand that beautifully now captures her message and the transformative promise of her brand. Tanya actually went through our self-paced brand discovery intensive where she took time to answer the questions. And then when we got on our review call, I was blown away at the result. So I want to talk more about that, and we're going to talk more about that. But now I want to say welcome to the beautiful Tanyah Jackson. So glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Kia. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your program and just allowing me just to speak a little bit about my life and hope that it will bless so many of your viewers.
Thank you, Tanya. I know it will. I mean, I know regardless of where they are, they're going to get something out of it because our conversation is going to be very interesting mix. There's going to be business, branding, beauty and art and fragrances, spirituality and mysticism, which really is just things that are kind of mysterious but curious. So I think everybody will get a little bit out of it. So, Tanya, I want to tell my listeners how I met you briefly, and then I'd love for you to share your journey to how you got to where you are. So, I've always been a believer in fragrance, like all five senses. Sight, obviously, I'm a visual designer. Hearing, sound makes an impact. Touch, physical touch. We do direct mail, so we think it's really important to have physical touch. Um, and also smell, right? So smell transforms your thinking. It transforms. It helps. We have the different essential oils. I think a lot of people know. So it's an important direct link to your brain to make changes throughout your whole body. And so always known that, and oils and using oils and in different ways. So somehow I stumbled on a video. It was like a little mini documentary on Facebook where you were interviewed on your oils. So you create perfumed oils, both for fragrance, but also for like therapeutic and also for just anointing spiritual uses. I was captivated by that documentary because somehow brought in, you brought a layer of meaning to those use of oils and fragrance that blew my mind. And it just connected heart, it connected mind, it connected practicality, like physical use. It just connected it in this amazing way. And we'll put a link to that documentary because now I think I made people curious. And so I was like, wow, and then I contacted you and I got your perfumes and oils, and they are the most precious possessions I have. They smell better than any expensive designer perfume that I've ever owned or ever smelled. Truly, truly. They're so pure, so you don't get all the junk and chemicals that you get in perfumes. And I use them during my meditations. I use them for anointing. I use them just when I want to get a pick me up. And so, anyway, that's how I met you. I was just so fascinated by what you do, and I'm so glad to hear. So, tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you get started and ended up doing what you're doing now?
So, yeah, I studied art. So that's my background. That's my degree is fine arts and painting. And the oils basically came through a journey of discovering like my inner self. I think my oils created a story that I could manifest something physically in the natural, because so often I'm actually a really quiet person. So I'm not a writer, but I paint. But now my oils have become my story. That's my writing, that's my prayer. So in the process of creating all of these oils, I recognize that I'm actually praying. I'm writing a book, I'm writing a poem, I'm writing a story through combining the meanings of all of these oils. And when I first started with the oils, I had no idea around anointing. I had no idea around fragrance. I just had this feeling that I needed to immerse a bunch of ladies in a event dancing and worshiping the Lord, that they needed to be immersed in the fragrance.
Mm.
I had no idea what I was doing. I went to the local pharmacy and I purchased some water, rose water, and I threw all my cheap perfumes in this rose water. I broke up all the bottles that I had and I just threw all of them into the water. And at that point in time, I created this mixture of fragrance that was never created after that, and I don't think can ever be created. But it sparked something within me because we all had an encounter. We all had an experience at that time. And I slowly started doing some more research into oils, into the anointing. Why is it so important in the Bible? Fragrances, incense, perfumes, like throughout scripture, it's mentioned over and over and over again. There's over 1,000 different references regarding fragrance within the scripture. So there's some importance to that. And you mentioned something earlier around fragrance and how important it is to the mind connection. Fragrance is actually the sense that can awaken a memory, but also lock in new memory.
Mm.
So it's really important for us to understand how, when I tell you my grandma's apple pie or Thanksgiving, we're all on pumpkin right now again, right? We all create that memory. It's like when we say pumpkin pie, a memory can be just in a moment, in an instant, you are taken back into it. So what's important around the memory or triggering a memory is that your body actually experiences it for the first time. So it's not a past experience, even though it happened in the past, your body will experience it as if it's for the first time.
What
So
does that mean? Sorry to interrupt you. When your body experiences it for the first time, what's
so
the
when we talk about a trigger, when we speak about traumas or healthy memories, the engagement, the feeling, the energy around that memory is the body doesn't know which timeline it's in. So your body doesn't say, oh, I'm experiencing the memory now when I was a kid. It's experiencing it now as if it is the first time it's experiencing it. So in other words, when we say we are triggered, let's say trauma triggers, for example, it feels so intense for us. It feels so overwhelming for us. And we sometimes don't understand why, because we've probably already worked through that trauma, but the feeling in your body, the memory in your body becomes so intense. And that's because the memory is stuck. That's the body holds the score, if you guys have ever read that book. So the body is actually experiencing that thing that you've just triggered the memory for the first time. So the intensity of it is exactly the same, because in that moment, your body doesn't understand that it's experiencing today was something that it actually experienced in the past.
So when it's a good memory, it's a
It's a
positive, like you're reliving the effect of that emotion. But when it's a bad memory,
Yeah,
then it can
both
impact
both good
us.
and bad. I mean, if it's a good memory, we go into ecstatic experiences. It's euphoric, right? So then we feel good, we have joy. So fragrance can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Fragrance can do both. It can either help us work through a bad memory and transition us into a good memory. And a good memory can lock in a future scenario where we can recreate that. So, in other words, let me use it through this experience. One of the oils that I created for a conference, I created the oil to bring people into a relationship of understanding how joy transcends us into a realm that we can move forward in vision. It spikes our dopamine, it locks in new vision, it helps us learn new things. So this oil was created through a way that we transition in an up and down motion, coming through a traumatic experience or trauma that's locked in the body. So it raises the traumatic experiences up into the surface. We can work through that memory really quickly because the oil is helping us, it's grounding us. We're in this experience with a conference, everybody's full of joy, so we can work through the trauma really quickly because we're engaged with people, we're hugged, we're loved, we experience the presence of the Lord. And then one of the oils locks in that new memory. So now in that moment, as you have locked in a new memory, that traumatic experience no longer has the same effect.
Mm.
Because we just alchemized it. We've just transitioned the whole body system from a traumatic experience to light, to love, to healing. And now we can function from that place. We can move forward.
So good. So good. Let me ground this a little bit because some of my listeners, this might be completely new to them. But if they've been listening and they know, that I talk about brand and brand development, and one of the pillars of a strong brand is the emotional connection that people have with you. So I just want to, I like to say, we walk with our feet on the ground and head in the clouds. So we want a combination of
Both.
let's look at the stuff that's like, what? But then let's bring it down and see how it practically plays out. Um, the emotional connection, when you have a powerful magnetic brand, it stirs up emotions and you make a
Yes.
connection with people.
Yes.
So, and the reason for that is because emotion is energy, is
Yes.
tangible energy. And so people who have strong brands are able to direct that energy through how do they create those strong brands that direct that emotional energy? You tell stories, right? You speak about your experiences, you speak about your struggles, you speak to an experience that your ideal market has gone through. It it triggers an emotion, the connection is made. Now that the connection is made with you as the business person, business owner, whoever you're, coach, consultant, attorney, whoever you are, now you have the power to transform that connection to something positive, and that you can solve their problem. You can provide a place for them to, you know, come and trust you and like you and create a different vision. So that emotion is energy that connects.
Yes.
And I hope that I think one of the marks of very successful people who can really grow and whether personally or professionally is seeing these principles played out in a completely different context and then being like, got it. Now I know how it works. So I love what you said that you using oil as that connection to take the emotion because the smell makes a connection to transform. So, Tanya, you mentioned how your oils tell a story. Now, I can definitely see that with how your paintings and your artwork tell a story. But tell me a little bit about what you mean when you say your oils tell a story.
Okay, so the oils in scripture have meaning to them, either the word of oil in the Hebraic comes through the meaning, or there's a specific reference within scripture that creates a storyline, or it has a specific meaning, or in the Hebraic it will have a numerical value. Like, for example, in the beginning, I would take all the oils, figure out what they were in Hebrew, and every Hebrew word has a numerical value to that. So all the oils that I would mix together, I would mix that exact numerical value of the word within the oil. So just as an example, cinnamon is in the holy oil in scripture, and cinnamon also means holiness. So if I use an a cinnamon oil, and let's say apple in Songs of Songs, it says, "For I have awakened you under the apple tree." So apple then represents awakening. So if we put the two together, we are awakened to holiness.
Mm,
So
that's
now it starts
exciting.
combining them. They start creating these little stories and prayers. So if I'm combining it, I would say to the Lord, "Awaken me to your holiness as I consume of the tree of the apple," or if I eat apples, if I use the oil, I now start functioning with intention, with prayer, with poetry. I create a storyline that my DNA and my intention and my thought and my emotions and my whole being now starts activating according to this prayer, this intention, this ritual, if you will, starts activating that within my life. So we don't become holy, it's through him that we find holiness. So if I start activating my intention of his holiness through me, then I start awakening to it.
I love that. And for people who maybe are new to oils and scents, I think there are some who intuitively understand this, which is where I was. Like I didn't know any of that, but when I understood that there was a story behind oils and fragrances. But storytelling. Let's just
Yes.
talk about storytelling. Where are people most comfortable with storytelling? Movies, books. And if you go to a movie, it's supposed to be an immersive experience from the sound to the visual and the right? Like you get into the emotion and the storyline of it. And some movies, they're so impactful, depending on what you're watching, that they leave an impression on you, right? Like they shift things, they create a memory, they attach. I've you can talk to people, you'll say, what was a movie that impacted you the most? I have a movie that impacted me the most because of the storyline, because of the characters. So, or books, get into books and one of the common questions is what are the top three books that have impacted you the most? And everybody has an answer because of the storyline, because of what the words carried, the energy, the emotion that the words carried. And it leaves an indelible impression. Fragrance and oil, it's the same. There's something that carries that has a story that it. Maybe you're not reading it, maybe you're not seeing it, but it's getting into your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's the intention that you put on it.
It is the intention. I think the big thing around that, whether it's a movie, whether it's art, whether it's fragrance, whether it's oil, part of the storytelling for most of us is that we're trying to escape. It's a
Mhm.
form of immersive escaping. But I think the thing with the story, and that's where it comes back to business, is when we tell a story, we're trying to help our customer to find a need. We're trying to find their needs and we're trying to fulfill a need within them. And through the story, it brings a transformation. And in that same question that we have to, and I think that's is where I kept asking myself the same question is, okay, if I'm telling this story, what am I trying to bring transformation in with the person that's going to take that oil, for the person that's going to buy that oil, for the person that's going to buy that painting? What is that immersive story that would end up being a form of escape, if you will, from this reality, because that's what a lot of us do when we go to the movies, right? If it's a form of escape, but you're saying that that storyline, that movie impacted you in such an extent that now you're moving in a different way. It's brought something to your realm, to your environment, that now it's impacted you and you're working with the intention of that impact. And I think that's the main thing around the story, that when someone buys my oil, there's an intention that I mix it with. So it's a transformative intention. And with most of our businesses, we're trying to bring people into the fullness of themselves, into the best version of who they can be. And that's what my art did for me. That's what the oils did for me. It created a not just the business, but a transformational journey. And through my transformation, my story, I can now help others in their transformation, in their story. So, as much as we want to escape and find new truth and find a higher level of conscious thinking, a higher level of truth for ourselves, we do something with that story. It doesn't just stay an ethereal story that was a nice story. We do something with that story. And when we decide that this story impacted my life to such an extent that now it's transformed me, we live from the higher truth of that transformation.
That's right. That's exactly right. I think that's so extraordinary because one of the things and I love how aligned, like how parallel this is. So one of the brands that I recently launched, and then I want to talk about your two brands and how you brought them together. So your art, storytell, your oils, your fragrances, storytell. So one of the brands I usually call the Muse's Pen, which is storytelling on paper, right? So my medium is words. And it is. You can be intentional about the story that you write. So you transform not just your experience, but you transform other people. You use your story to
Yes.
transform. That's a transformative agent. And that's like one of the pillars of our brand discovery. If you remember in the brand discovery process, Tanya, one of is what is your story? Write your story. And time and again, without fail, when people share their story, that is where the power of their brand arises. So I love that you said that my story will bring transformation to you because you just wrote a story and then we create a new story together
Yes.
based on what you did. And what carries the story? What carries the story is pen and paper, is art, I gotta bring one of your bottles, fragrance. What
Yes.
else carries story? I mean, anything can get your presence, your words carry story, your actions carry story. And I think that's just glorious.
Yeah.
So how did that come together for you? Like, so you had your art and you had your fragrances, and then suddenly this understanding that I'm telling a story and I'm inviting people into a transformative experience. Tell me how that process unfolded for you.
That was a long process, actually. I think one of the things that was really difficult for me is the concept between I'm running a business and I'm an artist. I think many artists don't see themselves as business people to start with. And then I have the oils on the side, which ended up being a small little sideline business. And many times people say, why do you have two businesses? Why don't you just bring them together as one? And I think the vision around them at that point in time, I just couldn't see them merging, because working with the oils, it was very spiritual and bringing people into anointing oils and selling it from the perspective of scripture and Hebraic. And then my even though my paintings also have a very mystical background in how I created it, when you put a painting up, that's not necessarily what people buy. They buy the beauty of it, if you will.
Right.
And it speaks to them in their personal level. So, and also selling oils, and I'm just going to put this out there, some people might disagree with me, but selling a painting to someone within the church is not seen. Like it's there's not a lot of value in religion at this point in time placed upon art, even though it's growing right now and it's shifting. There's more and more people that value art in such a way. So in my mind, I was selling to the marketplace, if you will, the art, and I was selling the oils to the church. So
Two different target markets.
two different target markets, right? So that was the main reason why I saw them as two businesses, because I just had a really hard time as the market and who to sell to. So in the beginning of the year, I had your program that I ran through, and that sort of brought a lot of click stories and my journey, my transformation journey of the transformation that I went through in my art and the transformation I went through in the oils. And both of them ended up being exactly the same thing. And that story was that I was encountering my life through my senses. I was encountering what I saw, what I heard, what I smelled, what I wrote down through my senses. So my whole spiritual engagement is from the seen realm to the unseen realm through our senses. A memory is an unseen thing. It's just a moment in time. It's like a photograph. It's not a reality. A photograph is just a moment in time. So in the same way, we can recreate that scenario or change that scenario, our story, change the storyline according to how we experienced it. So for me, the two just came together, that I'm actually busy with exactly the same thing. And that is that I'm engaging my reality through my senses. And it was almost like hello, why did it take you like 20 years to figure this out? And I think that I needed to encounter them separately and engage them separately before I could bring them together. So with your help, that just sort of brought the story together, and understanding that I'm actually busy with exactly the same thing. It's just the expression that's different. And it seems so silly to actually say that. Like, how could you not see that like 10 years ago when you actually started the process? But I think it's how we engage our reality. The fragrance did something for me from a perspective of, I found fragrance in my traumatic situation, my trauma, the traumas that I've gone through my life. Whereas my art was a means of survival. It was a means to create finances. And it was my career, if you will. So the art was sort of my spiritual, private moment. And actually understanding that I'm busy with the same thing was an eye-opener to me. And then also going through your program in the beginning of the year, I think for the very first time, I started thinking like a business person. I started thinking that this is not just a side hustle, or it's a job. It's no longer a job. It's my life. And I'm willing to share my life with others. And that became the business.
That's so beautiful, profound. So many points I want to unpack here because speaking to the business owners, right? I love that you said there was this thread in these two separate, your art and your fragrances, where when you're looking at them from the inside, right? You're inside the jar. You're looking. There are all these separate, stories and things and uses that you can't see outside the jar. And I use that analogy a lot, just inside the jar versus outside the jar. And then, and you had all your stories. You sort of kind of put them all together. And then when you went outside the jar and looked at it from the outside, like a business, right? Like, okay, I'm going to step out and answer those questions. Who's your market? What problem are you solving? What's the impact? And this very specific set of questions. When you answer those questions, all of a sudden you saw the common thread in all of them. And that label on the outside, that thing on the outside started to emerge. And I think there is a common thread when we look at our story and we write our stories, right? So you said you can you tell it, you can either recreate it, or you can change it, but put it down, look at it, and then look at the common thread and then rewrite it. And you were able to discover that through a very mystical, very spiritual, ancient ways of fragrance, of scriptures, gematria, we call gematria, which is numbers associated with words and letters, holy ancient teachings, and then art, which people feel a little more grounded. But here's the thing, your business. So I'm speaking to the entrepreneur, I'm speaking to the lawyer, I'm speaking to the coach, consultant. Your business is a holy endeavor. Your entrepreneurial journey is a holy endeavor because it is a container that you are using to impact people's lives.
Yeah.
And so whereas Tanya's is oil, mine might be brands, the lawyer, his law firm is the law. The consultancy is their IP, is their process. The I don't know, commercial contractor are the buildings, right? Like those carry what the stories, those carry the stories. And so we each have carrier of stories in the work that we do. And it's just being able to really see it in expanded view and see it in a way that we're not used to seeing it. And I think that's beautiful and profound. What do you think? Am I like way off base here?
No, because I think it's understanding that that's our expression.
Yes.
The lawyer expresses through law. You express through branding. It's that expression of who we are that becomes part of the branding story. Is my oils, my paintings. It's how I speak. A lawyer is how they speak. It's the expression of their being. And I think that's what we need, all of that in society in order for us to be a full whole.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I couldn't do what I need to do right now as a business if I didn't have what you gave. Like if I didn't have your expression, I would still be running around with two entities that weren't working. Right. And I think what's interesting about this is when we talk about that container and moving out of the container as the observer of what it is that we're busy creating. I think the biggest shift for me is that I no longer looked at what I created as a mode of survival. It was no longer like I need to make paintings or I need to sell oils in order to get money to survive. So getting out of the container no longer becomes about me. It becomes about your market, becomes about the customer. It's about their need. It's about how you can help others. And in the process, you are taking care of yourself. And I think that, as the observer, shifted the whole business market for me. And Kia, I could just say, like, I've done multiple different other marketing strategies and marketing things. And in the same time, I think as a creative, even though I could see exactly what that meant and see the timing, I think, is also really important. And for me, that was the timing for this season. And it's shifted really quickly. And now it's just expanding because I shifted, everything else is shifting according.
Yeah. That what you said, that it stopped being about survival for you. Like, and that's another kind of a key pillar of beyond the brand, but a vision and mission, where if we can shift out of what do I need to do to make money
Mm-hmm.
to what brings me joy,
Yes.
what makes me happy, what would I do if I didn't have to get paid doing? And forcing people to answer that question has been extraordinary in the brand discovery process. Like, I get some like left field answers. I'm like, what? Why aren't you doing that right now? And then that's where it bridges the gap between survival and thriving.
Yes.
Tanya, I don't have to tell you, because you shared with me before, before we hit record, how things are expanding for you. Same. When you start operating in a place of, I love this and I would do it regardless of how much I got paid for it,
Yes.
the doors just open up.
Yes.
Opportunities just open up. Magically, they just open up. And then the money follows.
Yes.
I know some people don't agree with that. And it's not that you just ignore the money and just go la la la. You got to be smart and wise, a good steward of the money, but getting the priorities right and the order right is important.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it creates a different authority level in your business. Because if you're like, if I had to think about how I processed even charging my prices for my artwork, it was out of a survival system. Like, if you could just pay me $100 for a 4 by 6 foot painting because I really needed the money, but that's not the process of authority as an owner of your business. So at the same time, it's giving you the authority when you start owning the fullness of your expression as the owner of that company. Now, as a master in the authority of your knowledge of your business, you can now help and transform others. And the process makes it so easy then, because you're not striving anymore. You're just expressing your story, telling your story, helping others, and they come alongside the journey.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's beautiful. Tanya, I love how your story unfolded and how you were able to bring together your two brands in this, like, truly, this is what I call a magnetic brand. And the magnetism comes from the emotional energy, right? It's carried by emotion, but it comes first not by looking at how people are looking at you, because you get all messed up in the head. You're like, oh, I should only charge $100. Oh, but this is art. This is like spiritual. This is business. The magnetism doesn't come by focusing on how people are looking at you. It comes first by how you see yourself first. And
Exactly.
so when you were able to step out and look at yourself, you saw the common thread, but you owned it. You said that, okay, this is my expression.
Yes.
It is valuable. And then you were able to come from a place of authority, of thriving, of expanding. Instead of $100 for your art, it's $1,000 now for your art. And you say it without apology because
Yes.
you know the impact that it makes on people.
Yes. And I think that's the value, exactly what you're saying. I think as owners of companies, if I cannot see the value in who I am and understanding the truth of who I am, what am I trying to transform in other people? How can I lift them up if I'm not even in that position myself?
Right.
And I think that was one of the most, and I think again, that's why I had the two companies as well, because individually I was growing in both of them, in my identity, in the knowledge of knowing the value of what I'm busy giving. So no longer am I thinking of you're just buying a nice visual painting. No, you're going to buy the value of what I carry. And now it becomes that holistic thing that you're talking about. It's the storytelling. It's the value of what I actually create. It's who I am. It's transformation. It's shifting other people in their realities. It's bringing a shift in their environment, bringing a painting into your space. It's not just something of beauty, it's literally shifting something for you. And I think that's what becomes powerful. It's not a product. It's no longer just a product that we're selling truth.
Yep. Transformation, which is
Transformation.
what people want. People want to write, so we write your story the way that you want, according to your truth of, to me, truth is, we hear a lot, it's kind of a little buzzword, like, what's your truth? What's your truth? The way that I've defined it is, what's your deepest desire? What's your holy desire? And
Yes.
in my book that's coming up, I talk about that. Like, what is that desire that makes you crazy? And we talked about that before our call, before I hit record. It's like, help, I'm out of my mind. And your truth starts with that burning desire.
Mm-hmm.
And people are unwilling to go there, Tanya, because they think they're crazy. They think they're asking too much. They think they don't deserve it.
Yes.
They think they'll be disappointed, or they just don't know how to hold it without going nuts. And
Yes.
so your products, your way, and all of us, your oils, your paintings, my brand discovery, the lawyer, the entrepreneur, we're giving them ways to be able to hold it and tell us the story that gives them, that takes them to the transformation that they've always wanted, that takes them to their deepest desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I needed to work through is sometimes we have a fear of failure, but sometimes we also have a fear of success.
Yes.
And that was something that I had to really work through in my own life, is the fear of success, because one of the things around business is, can I sustain that success?
Yes.
Can I sustain, once I'm successful one time, if I can see that success once, can I reproduce it a second time or even make it better? Can I do it a third time? Will I disappoint people? But I think it goes back again to ourselves. Like, I've been faithful in myself. I've done the work. I have laid down my life for my expression, if you will, and I've done it sustainably over the years, even though it wasn't as successful as what it's now becoming and expansive as what it is right now. It wasn't that it was not successful, but I pursued that and I continue to pursue that. So I had to work through fear of success because of the sustainability of it. And something that I think for me that's really important around what happened this year is, how flexible am I? How flexible do I remain within my business, where I can shift it, change it, transform it, expand it, break something away, bring it back? Like, how flexible are we? Because in that form, when I came to that realization that I have to literally shut down two businesses so that they can be merged and become something completely new, that's a big thing, because now I've worked on them for like 10 years, 15 years. And now I'm saying, okay, I'm stopping all of this. Everybody that's been following me, everybody that's been my customers, this is no longer going to exist, but this will exist. And knowing that it will be better, that's a big step. But I'm glad that I could go through that, because I think that's important for us as business owners, to stay fluid, in
Yes.
what the business or your customer is asking of you.
Yeah, that's so good. God, I so appreciate you saying this because these are concepts that I actually talk about in my book. And I'm not trying to like, and this is like the manuscript of it. I'm not trying to like over promote the book really. I know it sounds like unplugging, but it's just really affirming these ideas that when I wrote this book, Tanya, like I wept. I would weep writing the book. It was a very emotional experience for me because they were truths that were so embedded in me. And one of these ideas, as you just said, is that to grow, you got to shed the old. And
Yep.
it's not easy to say goodbye to the old. You got to shed the old identities, some of the old work that you've put into creating something. And that's hard. And that's what keeps people from transforming because they don't want to let go. And being able to let go is a huge turning point. It's a key, like a
Yes.
shift. That's where the big shift and the big breakthrough happens. So how did you, I can talk about like I talk about in the book how you let go of some of those identities, but what was the truth in you that was like, I can let go of what I created? What was that process?
Um, well, I've always been someone that would just jump off the mountain and hope I fly and I have a parachute on. um, in that sense. But I think the thing is, I came to the point where I could no longer sustain the old, right?
Mm,
Because that it takes, then it becomes performance. Then I have to perform to keep that. It's no longer my identity. It's no longer my truth. Therefore, if I continued in that way, um, it wouldn't even be authentic, really. And I'd rather be more authentic than having to continue to work on something. It just was not working anymore. So I
mm,
could either continue in that and sit under the pressure of it, really, because it became a weight. It became really heavy to carry, or transform and see what comes out of it. I think for me, one of the things, and as artists, I think this is probably a something that I teach on all the time, is that if we can remain and understand that chaos, that if we create chaos or there is a lot of chaos in your life, that chaos isn't necessarily negative. Chaos allows us to have potential for something bigger and something greater. And it's an emotional thing again. So if you go back to what we started this conversation, that emotion is energy, that chaos is energy. It's what do we want to create with the chaos that we have? With that energy, can we shift that energy of chaos and create something beautiful from it? So as an artist, I think that's one of the things that helped me move from that place. But it doesn't mean you need to be an artist in order to do that. It just means you need the understanding that, okay, there's chaos. What do I do with the energy? Because it's got all of these emotions, it's got all of these feelings, and you're experiencing all of these things. But we have the choice to either remain in a negative emotion or shift ourselves into the power of our authentic true identity and express from
yeah,
that place.
that's beautiful. That's amazing. I love it. You're like, yes, I talk about that in my book. And the way that how I, inviting people to move into the next season of their life, because like you said, it's come to a place where it feels like performance. It's that fire is not there anymore. And for you, it felt like a weight
Yeah.
that you needed to shed. And I think the way that I frame it when I talk about it in my book is that you, well, many of the readers of my book, they're people who have had lots of success in their business, but now their business feels like a weight, but it's almost in a way where because it's successful, they can't admit to it, right? They can't be like, I don't want this anymore. People are like, what are you crazy? Like you've got this great business, you got this great team, you've done all these things. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't want it anymore? And giving them permission to say, I don't want it to be just about performance. I
Yeah.
want to go back to the place where I feel alive inside. And here's how they make the transition. They thank what has gotten them, thank you.
Yes,
There's a honoring of that they've done and a releasing of it. It's not like a bad thing that it does not. It's a beautiful thing that their story where they got. So they honor it, they release it, and then they invite the new and allow, by allowing the new story to unfold, by allowing for their desires to open up.
exactly. And then that's part of the story actually. That's part the transformation of moving, like this podcast that we're having right now. I'm telling that story of letting go of part of it and recreating something new is that's part of our creation process. And I think maybe sometimes we get so stuck in the performance of it, we stop dreaming and we stop becoming creative.
Yes.
And I think creativity and dreaming and vision and mission and all of those things is a continuous journey, I think, for all business owners. And if we can keep on dreaming around our business, it will have to be fluid because we go bigger and bigger and bigger, or we have to shift completely and change direction. So dreaming, I think, is a really big facet for me that I need to hold on to in my business to stay, I think as well, stay very influential and in the moment, what's needed right now.
Hmm. For sure. Vision. I'm all about vision. You're a visionary. I am too. And surrounding yourself with people who are visionaries, because truly you feel like you're delusional. You feel like you're losing your mind as a visionary. And so being able to have places where you can tell your story and people can hold your story for you is beautiful. And, that's where I invite people in with my Muses pen. It's where you invite people in. You have a Patreon that you invite people to help them hold their story, hold their vision. So I'll put that link down there. So people, if they want to find you and engage deeper with you, it would be your Patreon, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's we could talk for hours and hours, but let me ask you, tell me about your current business, the name, and just what do you want? What do now that you've brought the two together, share with the listeners what you want them to know and how they can get connected with what you're doing now through your one business now.
Okay, so the business name is Tanya El Nahara. And El Nahara is a mixture of Hebrew and Aramaic that means the divine luminous river. And the reason why I chose that is because, again, it's the creative flow. It's out of the divine light that we create anything and everything. So we are busy creating these toolboxes, if you will, of sensory experiences. So creating an oil, creating a painting. I'm working with some artists that we could possibly bring some sound into it as well. So what does it look like if you have a painting? What does the painting smell like? What does the painting sound like? So it becomes an immersive experience. And we have a Patreon group that we just meet very often. We're starting a new meditation, bringing us into this space, exactly like you're saying. So it becomes an immersive experience, knowing what we are experiencing, what we are understanding, what we are thinking, what we are feeling. So that, and then pretty soon we are expanding to the UK as well. So in this process, within a year, this business has gone from um, running around with like a headless chicken to now being global. And yeah, just such a great experience this year of just living my truth, a new truth, or an expanded truth, I should say, and seeing other people come alongside and say, yes, this is what we're looking for.
That's beautiful. I love that. So Tanya, I'm gonna at the end I have sort of these fast questions with quick answers just for fun for people to get to know you a little bit more. So okay, before we get into that, please go visit Tanya's website.
Yeah, the website is tanya.art.
Tanya.art. That's what I thought. Tanya.art. And I cannot recommend enough her fragrances, the perfumes, the oils. They've been transformative for me. So I hope that like look at that, and the art's just beautiful. And the Patreon to get connected. You're not too much on social media, so it's either Patreon's going to be it to connect with you.
Yeah, if people want to connect with me directly, I do have Instagram and Facebook, so tanya.art on both of them. And
Okay.
I'm planning to be more social.
It's okay. You know what? The space you're in is perfect.
It's
It's perfect. So, a few more questions. Let's see. What would you say has been the biggest factor that contributed to your success?
I would I would have to put my husband in that.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely, because I think he's allowed me to just be, whether I create, don't create, have a business, don't have a business. So really just his support has allowed me to go through this process without the fear of bringing finances into the house, honestly. So I would put him in there.
that's awesome. That's beautiful. How wonderful. Um, what, here's another question. What has been the biggest flop in your journey? Like you're like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking?
My goodness, that's a good question. Um, wow.
It's like I wouldn't like if you were to tell somebody like, look, by the way, don't do that. We can come back to that if you can't think of
I would probably say um, do your research because it's going to save you a lot of money. I think that I've jumped in so many different programs and I've jumped into so many different teachings, grabbing for just knowledge to try and make this work, that I've spent a lot of money with no results.
it.
And so I would probably say follow Kia. Do what she says. Yeah, but do a lot of research because I think I've spent a lot of money that was a waste.
Oh, well, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Sometimes you got to know what doesn't work before you know.
Yeah.
It's like that Formula 409, that cleaner. That was the 409th formula that worked. The 48 others flopped. Formula 409 was the one that cut the grease. So, what continues to be a challenge for you that tests your resolve?
I would probably say it would continuously be the marketing side of the business. Because I think for me, I'm a creator, right? Like I said in the beginning, I never really saw myself as a business person. So getting clear around what you helped me with the marketing and understanding my language and understanding how I'm presenting that, but the actual doing of it, it's still sometimes for me one of the biggest things. I go, oh, do I really have to do this? Where I could just sit in front of a painting and just create this beautiful painting. So I would probably say though that's probably the hardest side of the business for me as a creator.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Even though I'm in the marketing business, it's still a challenge for me.
Yeah.
I love the getting like looking in the eyeballs and getting one, talking about the message and the development and then getting the message out and how to get a bigger audience, get in front of more people. We're more the nurture marketing, so it's like who's already listening to you? Let's engage with them deeper. That's what I love. That's what I can do. But there's also an aspect of, well, we need to grow that audience a little bit too.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe going deeper is enough.
Yeah.
Um, Share with me a breakthrough result or results you that what you do has brought about for others. So what breakthrough results have you achieved for others that you can share? Either one or two, whatever many you want to share.
I think one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've seen with people, customers, is that they actually discover their own identity.
Mm,
Through the fragrance, through the Patreon page, through what I'm teaching. Exactly what you're teaching is about yourself it's about discovering your own identity and then becoming that expression. That would probably be the biggest transformational stories that I have recognized with a lot of my customers. And then I think the second thing, and this is so beautiful to me actually, when I see people opening a fragrance or seeing or watching one of my perfume or one of my paintings, like just observing it or just looking at it, and there's this emotional trigger, right? Like that to me constantly, it amazes me, like that something
Mhm.
so small can have such a big impact on someone's life and truly change them in a moment. There's a shift in a moment, they can experience something that to me, I would always stand in awe of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's that mystical, magical part of what you do, Tanya. And honest, I think everybody has a mystical, magical part, just not everybody's aware of it. But yeah, I'll just tell you, I'm gonna grab the perfumes because I just want to show people how beautiful they are. So these are my two absolute favorite ones that I use all the time. This one's called Come Away With Me. Okay. Like just holding it now, I just feel the emotion of it. When I open my package, when you ship these to me, I get emotional. And so and what's beautiful, like you designed this package yourself. This is your artwork. You actually like right now, you know, at some point you're gonna have to mass produce them, but right
Yeah.
now you actually print and you create these boxes. And it has beautiful words on it that are from scripture. That you're altogether lovely and beautiful. There is no flaw in you. And then the bottle, same artwork, and it's just beautiful. And here's my other favorite one. This one was called "Come Away with Me." This one is called "Beloved." So this one's called "Beloved." And again, this beautiful art, you know, your art that's on it. It's your expression that's on it. And this is what the bottle looks like. And look, I'm almost out. um, and I love that you say that, you know, when you discover your identity and you become that expression, I think so much of mental health issues is because people do not express who they truly are. They express who they think they should be. And then they try to compare themselves to others. Like this is who I should be. Am I failing or am I succeeding? And then they look at other people and then they go into a spiral. But then when you truly embrace your identity and you express it in the way that's true, there's none of that. There's none of that. And I think that's glorious.
It's the comparison. We always try and compare ourselves to others
Mm,
instead of just being ourselves, and that actually becomes the elevation. The highest frequency that we can live in is authenticity.
that's right. That's right. It's such a overused word. People forget what it means. But when you break it up the way that we just did over this last hour, now you know what it means to live authentically, finding the common thread in your story,
Yes.
telling your story,
Yeah.
using that as a transformative agent in others, your identity, making it your identity and becoming the expression of it through your work, your business, anything that you do. Amazing. Love it. No wonder. I'll just say with the listeners, like we had such a power surge before this call that both our internets went down because there was so much power in this call. Um, all right. Last question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Trust your intuition more.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition. Trust yourself more and run with what you believe is the right thing in the moment. I think so often I've had dreams and visions, and I wouldn't trust that. But I think I would have ended up being in different places much quicker if I just trusted myself.
Yeah. Your inner knowing, that inner voice that
You know,
says, this is it.
yeah. I think we don't listen to intuition enough. I speak about intuition quite a bit, but I don't think we listen to that still small voice. We don't trust it. And I think if we actually allow ourselves just to engage it a little bit more, the natural flow of who we are as beings will be much easier for us to actually do, because we don't listen to that. We try and control it. And the control is what becomes the performance. We act the way we think people want us to act, or we act the way that we think we would be loved or accepted. But if we just follow our own intuition, our own knowing, then more and more fluidity actually comes into our lives, and we wouldn't be so stuck in our control of how we run our lives. I've seen that over and over and over in my life. The more I try and control something, the less I'm getting it.
That's one of the paradoxes of life, is
Yeah.
the more you try to control it, the more it moves away from you. It is very 100% true. And um and I think some of the challenge, and just, speaking to the business people out there who are very, logic, mind, and I get it. Like, we've got a plan, we've got to control the inputs and the outputs. Um, but here's what I would add is that if in one area of your life you can allow for intuition to flourish, decide what that area is. Allow for your inner knowing to guide. It doesn't have to be every single area. I know that, we can't always just function from our intuition 100% of the time. You kind of, you grease up you start working it, and then once it starts to feel familiar and like, oh, I can trust my intuition.
Yeah.
And then the balance, it takes work. It doesn't magically happen.
No.
But at least you open it up. Like, a lot of people don't even have it opened up. They're just, it's all brain, mental performance. It's like, open it up in one area, and then you'll see how it's going to flourish. Yeah?
Yeah,
Good
I think
advice?
the intuition plus the balance of the outflow, the process of the intuition, that's the part that we control it. So that becomes really balanced in our lives. But I always use the words ebb and flow, where we learn to be in flow state, flowing with intuition, that ebb and flow process in our lives. If we can manage that, then there is the process of systems and structure and processes. But that's flow part comes in with us already having those in place. So for me, I needed to learn the processes and the structures because I was very much in my intuition, but I didn't trust the intuition. And I think that's the difference, is if we just trust the intuition, then through that, our structures and processes will become easier for us.
I love that. That is exactly right. Like the river, the luminous river, it flows. The processes and the structure is the kayak, the canoe, the boat. But you allow the river, you build it for the river. You don't create a river for the canoe.
Exactly.
Well, that is a beautiful way to wrap up our conversation. How inspiring, how validating in so many ways, so aligned. Thank you so much, Tanya. And so I'm going to put on the screen once again, Tanya.art for your perfumes and your art, and your Patreon, which we'll put the link up there for people to connect on your Patreon. Thank you so much, Tanya, for coming. It's always so good to see you and talk to you. And
Thank you, friend. Thank you for inviting me. What an honor to be a part of this with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to my listeners for tuning in. And again, my name is Kia Arian, reminding you once again that your skills, your talents have been given to you for a reason. There are people who stand to benefit from what you offer, and there are others who you're not called to help. Focus on the former group. They're waiting for you.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, subscribe to the show, connect with Kia on LinkedIn, and let her know what inspired you. This broadcast was brought to you by Zine, a marketing and brand development agency that helps attorneys, entrepreneurs, and professional service providers Create raving clients who love them, stay with them, and tell others about them. Visit zignmarketing.com/newsletter to sign up and receive the Breathe Life newsletter, a print publication of Zign.